that could roll out
Yeah.
on any or all testing sites?
Sure. So let me start with the rapid testing. So it's basically about a 6-week pilot that will initially see the initial results. It started now, I believe it's 2.5 weeks ago, maybe 3. I have to double check. So in a few weeks, we'll know some of the initial results working with USC. There's a couple factors at play. One is how many tests we can get. And the state of California is getting millions of those tests, so we're working with them to try to see if we can distribute those in coming months. It wouldn't be, in November, but I think by the beginning of the year, we could start doing that. Second, we want to start testing this in school environment and with children. So at our testing sites, we are going to be doing that. I think that begins in a week or so that we can get some data about what it means for our youth and compare these rapid tests that are less sensitive but much cheaper with the very expensive and more sensitive PCR tests. And if we see a good overlap there, then I think we'll be able to say, why don't we pour some money into this? We get much of that money reimbursed from the federal government, as you know, from testing, and let's move forward at the beginning of the year. So that's, to me, kind of deadline. Let's research during this year, see if we can nail that down and be one of the first cities to be able to roll that out, should that need still exist, and I think it will. In terms of the convention center, yeah, I said, we have to look at the cost, we have to look at feasibility, we have to make sure that existing beds and shelters that are empty right now get filled, and we have to also find out if certain people aren't going into congregate shelter settings anymore, which some outreach workers are saying it's more and more difficult, that people have seen, and it's quite frankly been more effective oftentimes to have people in a hotel or motel room where they can kind of get their life together, be case managed, and then move on to permanent housing. I am open to any of those solutions. I think it merits studying. I'd like that report to be turned around quickly and together with the City Council to make an informed decision. But the more beds, the better in general, and the more quickly we can get them, as long as it doesn't come at the expense of making sure we get those long-term solutions. Thanks. Next question, please.
Thank you, and that comes from Robert Koviasek from NBC. Please.
Hey, Robert.
Mayor Garcetti, how are you?
I'm good.
Let's talk briefly about how you perceive the timeline working here in California once a vaccine is approved, understanding that Governor Newsom is going to have a separate review of anything the FDA approves. And how do you think that could potentially delay the vaccine getting out here to Southern California?
Well, I would hope it would not, and I have a lot of trust in Dr. Galley and in our governor, who's been able to move oftentimes much more quickly than Washington, but this would have to come either simultaneously or just after. We are preparing for the distribution side of things, so the county and the state are working together on that, and as we know, that is a real federal undertaking that retired and current military folks are overseeing, and I have a lot of faith in. I've been in the military. I know you tell people the mission, you tell it's moving tomorrow, and as the general said today, you tell us with green light we could start moving in 24 hours. We want to make sure these are safe vaccines, though. I know it's compelling. I know it's very enticing. You hear 90% the time that it works. We need to still have a little bit more information, so I do welcome the state having a second look at that, but I hope that that won't delay us at all. Last piece is there's a working group here in the county, and we intend to help with all sorts of logistical things. For instance, we talked today about whether our testing centers, places like Dodger Stadium, could be stood up as places to get vaccine, especially for folks who can't get them from a medical provider or want to do it quickly. We need to think about if it's the Pfizer vaccine, it has to be done twice and it has to be kept extremely cold. But lo and behold, downtown here, we have amazing warehouses for cold storage where people are experienced with this, and maybe we can enlist them so that we could have that key command. And we will offer ourselves at the national level, as we have done with asymptomatic testing, as we have done to bring down African-American deaths, as we have done with masks, to be the first in line. We have been, I think, in LA, unafraid to test things first. This is a vaccine, though, so we want to be careful. But as long as it's a logistical question, I think we have all the capacity